Good morning, friends. Hello, 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 hello. How are you this day? It is a new day that dawns upon us. How are you? How are you? Good morning, good morning, good morning, John. Great to see you. Good morning, Fanny Faye Davis. Good morning, good morning. Hi, everybody. Glad that you are here. How are you? Good to see you. We continue on our journey together. That we are not alone. It is good to see you. Good morning, Sharon. Glad you're well. Glad you're here. How are you, everyone? Hello, hello. What? I see others coming in. Jamie, good morning. I'm glued to the TV. Oh, yes. What? Something going on? Something happening? I didn't know about? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Good morning. Good to see each of you. So glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, Donna. So glad you're doing well. That does my heart good. And I hope you are all doing well this morning. That there is goodness in your hearts. Uh, hello, hello. Hoping for an end. Well, we're all hoping for an end. You know. Uh, so, good morning, good morning. We are here in this day, the fourth day of November. November the 4th, 2020. It's been a year, hasn't it? Hasn't it been a year? Hasn't it been this that as if we needed a little more murkiness, as if we needed a little more unclarity, as if we needed things not to be clear and shaken out. It is we another one of us falling um, falling through these days of uncertainty. And so I want to bring us back this morning. I want to bring us back to this whole nation thing to begin with. What is it that we started with when we started with this nation, and how did we come? We haven't always had these nation things. We haven't always gathered our people. I think the birthplace of the nation is considered Plymouth, with the founding of Plymouth Colony and the beginning of the Pilgrim journey, to which we in our church are direct inheritors of. That we stand in the long line of the congregational witness, the witness of the Pilgrims in America. So our journey as congregational Christians is inherently linked. It's plugged right into this whole nation of America and this whole nation and this whole idea of nation, of who we are as people and identity and who the character of that is. But this whole notion goes way back. It goes way back. And so I want to read to you today this whole notion of where it starts to come from and what is at stake when we find ourselves in the embrace of the nation. So, because I think there's something at work here that is in our time. And this is from the 8th chapter of First Samuel. Now, Samuel was a prophet in the Old Testament. This is a very old book. It's many hundreds of years before Jesus old. It is this is one of the core stories of the Israelite people. One day, the nation's leader came to Samuel at Ramah and said, "You are an old man. You set a good example for your sons. but they haven't followed it. And so now we want a king to be our leader, just like all the other nations. Choose one for us. Samuel was upset to hear the leaders say they wanted a king, and so he prayed about it. And the Lord answered, Samuel, do everything they want you to do. I am really the one they have rejected as their king. Ever since the day I rescued my people from Egypt, they have turned from me to worship idols, and now they are turning away from you. Do everything they ask, but warn them and tell them how a king is going to treat them. Samuel told the people who were asking for a king what the Lord had said. If you have a king, this is how he will treat you. He will force your sons to join the army. Some of them will ride in his chariot. Some of them will serve in the cavalry. Some will run ahead of his own chariot. Some of them will be officers in charge of thousands of soldiers, and others will be in charge of 50. Still others have to farm the king's land and harvest his crops and make weapons and parts for his chariots. Your daughters will have to make perfume to do his cooking and his baking. The king will take your very best fields, as well as your vineyards and your olive orchards, and give them to his own officials. He will also take 1/10 of your grain and your grapes and give it to his officers and officials. The king will take your slaves and your best young men and your donkeys and make them do his work. He will also take 1/10 of your sheep and your goats. You will become the king's slaves. And you will finally cry out to the Lord to save you from the king you wanted. But the Lord won't answer your prayers. The people did not listen to Samuel. No, they said, we want to be like other nations. We want a king to rule us and lead us into battle. Samuel listened to them, and they told the Lord exactly what they had said. Do what they want, the Lord answered. Give them a king. And Samuel told the people to go back to their homes. This is the first time, in many ways, we find the whole idea of nationhood, the whole idea of what nations look like in this world and what you're going to get if you ask for a nation. We're, friends, in the midst of this election, literally in the middle of it, because we can't seem to count anymore, that we're in the middle of this election, and we have received all of these promises that the Lord said would come as a result of having a nation. Now, is there another way to do it? I don't know. And I'm not advocating that right now. I'm just saying this is what it looks like. And we shouldn't be surprised that this is what it looks like. That we're in the business of contending for power. And when we're in the business of contending for power, we're going to get the things that we get in contending for power. And if you read the text closely, as they say, so people look at this text and they say, oh, well, the problem with the Israelites is that they wanted to be like the other nations. So in wanting to be like the other nations, what they really were doing is they wanted to have some prestige and some patriotism and all this sort of stuff and kind of puff themselves up, and that this was the real sin. I would suggest that's not the case, actually. I would suggest it's actually quite different, because if you hear the last line to this, we want to be like other nations. We want a king to rule us and to lead us into battle. The desire is not to be like other nations. The desire is to go to battle. The desire is for war. The desire is to control and oppress another people. You see, prior to this, there was called the time of the judges. And what would happen is there would be a problem in the world, and then that problem that faced for the Israelites, and then there would be God would raise up an answer, and go forward and answer that problem. Whether it was the Amalekites or the Philistines or whoever, somebody would show up, there'd be a problem, they would threaten Israel's existence, and then God would raise up an answer, there would be an answer, and the people would prosper. This was the cycle of the judges. Now it's the end of the judges, and they say, no, we want a king. Not because we want to be like other people, but what that means is it means we get to go to war. It means we get to control other people. It means we get to get our King Trump or our Daddy Trump or our Granddaddy Biden, and we get to put them on the throne. We get to have our will and our way over our fellow subjects. We get to do it to the whole world. It is the great sin of the nation is the love of our empire. An empire isn't just going out in other nations and other places. It is the love of controlling another person. And all of it is in the pursuit of getting rid of security, of our anxiety around insecurity. You see, the thing about the judges is it was a scary place to live because armies would show up on their doorstep and they would have no response. And then God would give them a leader, raise up a leader, and then the people would rally around that leader, and that God would give a proportional response to the response at the doorstep of the Israelite nation. That moment would be engaged at exactly the right way in exactly the right proportion to the threat that threatened it, and it would be overcome. This is a heck of a way to live. It requires incredible faith that when the armies show up, when the threats to our life show up, when our loneliness, when our anxiety, when our difficulty, when our problems, when we lose our job, when we fall into addiction, when all the things of life happen to us, when we are assaulted, that God will raise up a leader to bring us to rescue and salvation. That's the promise of the judges, period. We want to control our lives. We want to be controllers of our lives. We want to live that great awaken the giant within and Tony Robbins existence of being better and better and smarter all the time. We want to be fitter and beautiful and more stronger and all those things. We want to control all that we can control. We want to put we want to go to war. Because we are a warring people. We love it. We want to get out there and battle that 5 pounds. We want to battle cancer. We want to battle all the things that are in our lives. Look at the language that we use in the management of our lives. When we talk about nationhood, friends, what we're playing out right now on this incredibly big global set, we play out on our personal lives and in our personal way in just the same way. The great Helen Keller, and I may have read you this one before, but it is so good and it is so appropriate for this moment right here and right now, is the great Helen Keller says this about life. If you don't remember Helen Keller, born blind, deaf, and unable to speak, is taught through a touching sign language how to begin to explore her world and become a polyglot, both reading, writing, speaking many languages, a speaker on the national stage, and an incredible scholar and woman in her own right. And she says it this way: security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Friends, in our national life, we are in the midst of picking a king, and we're going to have we're going to have King Trump, we're going to have King Biden, we're going to have King somebody. We're going to have a king. And we're playing out in it our own ways and our own desires for security, our desires for control. You know, that we're all, and I'm right there with you. We're all watching the little magic box and see what the next results are. Because why? Because we want security. We want to be able to, because we want to be able to go to war. We want to be able to control the world around us. We want to be able to manifest our will into the world on other, and especially on other people. And we want to go war in our own souls too. We want to battle the 19 pounds we put on during COVID. We want to battle our own weight. We want to battle our world. We want to battle our worst selves. We want to go to battle with all these things. But the invitation to the world is the recognition that there is no security outside of the Lord. There is no king but Christ. There is no way for us to so push down all the pieces of anxiety in our life, or so push down other people that create anxiety in our life, or so create such a realm of safety that we can dwell in, that somehow and some way that king will keep us safe. No. Our desire to control will only do what the Bible tells us it will do. It will take the very best parts of us. It will take the very best of us, and it will sacrifice them on the altar of control. That's what it'll do. And so in this day, as you're like hoping for your candidate, and I want you to hope for your candidate. I'm not suggesting not to be involved in the process. I'm saying remember that there are these agents of control out there, both in your heart, and both in the world, and both in the national stage that we're playing them out, and in our personal stage in which we're trying to gain control against the people around us and the things that we're doing and all the things. But at the end of the day, the whole apparatus is something just trying to get us to get a little more security, so that we can just feel a little better about our days, that we can look like everybody else and drive our will into the world and into ourselves, and rather instead remember that those words of Helen Keller, that security is superstition. This is superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole ever really experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than our outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. God calls us to the daring adventure. God calls us to love one another and to love ourselves in such a way that we don't have to go to war, lest we are truly and utterly threatened. We do not have to express our will over things unless something comes to express its will over us. We do not have to, that there will be no challenge, there will be no army at the gate, there will be no enemy so great that God cannot and will not raise up love and grace and strength within us to match that and overcome it. That is the point of faith that our church right now needs in the midst of all of the changing rules from our governor and all these things. It's what we need to express to one another, that regardless of what king finds themselves on the throne and begins to extract the very best of us, we will love one another in the midst of it. That, friends, is the invitation for the day. I want to close with a prayer today, and I don't usually do this, but I want to close with this prayer from Basil the Great. Basil was a bishop in the year 379. He and he was content. He contended with emperors and all of the will to do violence out in the world, and the will to do violence upon self and upon our neighbors, and the will for nationhood, so that we could war. And Basil prays this. So I invite you to pray it with me. O King immortal, hear the prayers which we offer to you at this present time from our soiled lips. Forgive our transgressions committed knowingly or unknowingly in thought, word, or deed. Cleanse us from all stain of body or of soul. Grant us to pass through the darkness of this present life with vigilant heart and sober thought, expecting the bright new day of glory of your only begotten Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. May we be prepared to share the joy of his glory and the delight of seeing the inexpressible beauty of your countenance. Hear our hymn of praise, for you are the true light, the light that lights every manner of things. Amen. My friends, I hope you will spend your day having your mind and your heart illuminated and warmed by the true light, the light that enlightens all things. And that all of this clamoring around about kings and kingdoms, and give it over to the great King, to the one and true, O King immortal, Christ Jesus. All right, friends, peace and grace to you today.